I guess
I don't know that.
Frank is in a rare form here right now.
Musical mood.
Frank is getting lyrical, man.
I'm waxing.
I don't want to hear about that.
No, waxing lyrical.
Wax on,
Okay.
wax off.
All right. So do you want to start? We're about to start the Gillmor Gang. We're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Well, we hope we are, right? Blah, 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 blah.
Does anybody have any confirmation of any of that?
I see
Yeah,
it on Facebook.
Facebook. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
I don't see it on. Where would I find it on Twitter? On the regular Gillmor Gang page?
Should be, yeah, should be.
Gill.
And if you care to share, go ahead and share now. We're waiting for Keith.
Yep, I see it.
Okay, perfect.
We've got one viewer.
Chances are, hello, one viewer. Hang
Yeah,
on.
it's probably me or Keith.
All right, so let's go ahead and start, and Keith will come in when he comes in.
It's a theory.
Okay. All righty, places everyone. All right, mute is off. Okay. Hello. Mute is off. And we're going to go in 3, 2, 1. And
So hi, this is Steve Gillmor. This is the Gillmor
no, I
Gang.
got to start over.
All right.
Sorry.
So 3. Why is that going on?
I don't know, but I need you kind of be like front and center and not looking over there when we start the show.
Yeah, well,
Let me know when you're ready.
this is one way to do the show without Keith.
What, to not do the show?
No, just he's gone. Hasn't returned.
He will. He's rebooting shit. So,
Well, hey,
there
that's one of the 7 words you can't use in the stream.
you go.
Wait a minute. You can use anything in the stream.
There you go. All right. Okay, mute is off, and we're going to go in 3, 2, 1, and
Hi, Steve Gillmor here. This is the Gillmor Gang. I'm speaking to you from an unblurred studio in California. The reason is that we are monitoring the feckless Congress as they attempt to pull themselves out of their. Yes, exactly.
Are they? You mean they're feck them?
Oh boy.
Okay, so I think that's enough for a lower third. Pardon the expression. Joining us from Massachusetts, the corporation of Massachusetts, is Dennis Pombriant.
Oh, hi, Steve. I think you meant Commonwealth. And I'm broadcasting today from deep under a molehill in Western Massachusetts, where I should be safe from all UV radiation.
So you're busy making a mountain out of that molehill.
There it is.
Okay.
New glasses, Dennis?
New to you.
Yeah, because if you haven't seen them, they're new to you.
Well, they're beautiful.
You say that about reruns too, don't you?
Exactly.
I'm taking my lead from Frank.
Speaking
Okay,
Round.
I, on the other hand, have rebooted. Does this sound any
okay,
better?
excellent. Yes, thanks for interrupting my introduction of you.
No, the flow.
I do appreciate
The flow.
that. Well done. So joining us from wherever the hell he is Keith Tier. Welcome, Keith.
I am currently in Palo Alto, California.
Okay, so when you're in the middle of a long monologue and you start getting quieter, get louder.
Okay.
Perfect. Let's see. From the state of Atlanta, Georgia, is Brent Leary. Welcome, Brent.
I feel so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Why do you feel welcome?
I don't know. Just good to see you guys.
It's a Friday. It's a Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that. And it's sunny outside too, so it's kind of nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you have a camera on that, right?
Oh yeah. Forgot to tell
Somebody's
to mute his
late for
phone.
something.
Everybody take this time to mute your phones. Thank you.
Okay.
Clearly, nobody told the weather what's happening in Washington, D.C. Otherwise, it wouldn't be sunny, it'd be raining.
Ah.
I don't understand that.
That's a first. Normally, you're the one who can link together random disconnected things into
No, but what are you trying to say about the relationship between rain and Washington, D.C.?
Well, the absence of an infrastructure vote is clearly open to discussion whether it's good or bad news. But I was implying it was bad news.
Okay.
That the weather is cloudy politically.
Okay. We'll get into that in a minute. Joining us from Seattle, Washington, or thereabouts, is Michael Markman.
How do you do? It's good to be here on a sunny day after a week of rain in the Seattle area.
The rain has begun.
Yeah.
So that's the Washington that that Keith was referring to.
No.
Okay. If I muddied the waters enough.
At least we have waters now.
In London, England, is Frank Radis. Welcome, Frank.
Hello, Steve. Hello, gangsters here in London, where the United Kingdom is slowly falling apart, running out of gas, heading towards disaster. I say feck.
Okay, I think we've got this one rolling now.
Uplifting.
Yeah. So let's go directly to the one story that our producer would like us to avoid, which is politics. She's looking for sneak peeks, but she doesn't really want to say it.
Can't avoid that even here in the UK, where it's all about politics.
So are we ever going to get out of this? You know,
Yes.
this infrastructure
Yes.
deal. Why?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody says that, and there's no evidence to that.
Well, nobody gives you a date. They just say, yeah, sure, we'll get out of it.
Yeah, we will get out of it. The question is what we will get out of it with is open.
So how many people here are fans of the progressives?
I know.
I'll put your camera on.
What did they play? Did they play on Sundays? I already got it.
Thursdays. They play on Thursdays.
Thursdays. Yeah, I missed
They,
it.
they
All
just
right,
took
so
our insurance.
Let me put it another way. How many people are not fans of the progressives? Okay. So what is the purpose of the Democrats destroying their meager hold on the House, the Senate, and the White House for the purpose of going too far in terms of what they can get from a Republican-dominated political system?
That's a great question, Steve.
Knock yourself out. Seriously.
Seriously, that is a great question. I don't get it. I mean, from over here looking at it as a Brit, I don't get it. I mean, you know, holding up the the hard infrastructure bill for the $3.5 trillion bill, which is never going to pass at $3.5 trillion from what I can tell, seems like a big mistake. At least there's some movement to censure Kristen Sinema, who is, basically a Republican. And I just, it just looks like I want to scream at the TV every time I hear the story, because it doesn't seem to be progressing. Last I heard, though, and you guys can tell me if this is right, but Biden has taken himself to the Hill today or now, right now as we're speaking, to try and work this out. Is that true? And if it is true, do we think that he's going to be able to work it out? Can he put enough pressure on them? I don't know.
On who?
On the progressives or on Manchin and Sinema. I don't know. Who's he going to talk to? Seems to be talking to Manchin and Sinema in the White House. This must be talking to the progressives now.
So, I mean, why doesn't he just get it over with?
Let's go back to Steve's question. There is no point to destroying everything, and therefore everything will not be destroyed. We're sitting here in the middle of a process, and the process is still working itself out. We're so impatient in the age of the 24-hour news cycle, and now on the internet, the 5-minute news cycle. We expect to see the end instantly. We're not going to see the end instantly. The hold that the Democrats have on the House and Senate doesn't disappear until Election Day next year. That leaves time to get something done.
Well, if they push Kristen Sinema out of the Democratic Party, then it's over today.
They're not going to push her out.
That. Michael's right, I think. This is a strategy problem. What you're seeing is every side is burning their candle at both ends. The Democrats want their bills, and they're not going to give up anything that they don't have to give up. The Republicans actually want the small bill. They don't want the large bill. And most importantly, the Republicans don't want to go on record for not wanting the large bill. So I think the play is what Biden already laid out a few months ago when he said the two bills go in tandem, and I'm not going to sign one without the other. I think there's a modification that needs to be made there. Biden wants both bills, but he can't force them. The only thing he can do is demand a vote. By demanding a vote, it requires every senator to go on record. There are about 33 senators up for re-election next year. About 20 of them are Republicans. What we can get is the small bill for sure. And the large bill, if it goes through reconciliation, it might be able to pick up a couple of Republican senators who are feeling the heat in their reelection campaigns, even forgetting about Manchin and Sinema. And I think it'll pass. But I think we're at a logjam moment where somebody's going to blow out one of those ends of their candles and say, and I think it's the Democrats. I think the Democrats have to say, fine, have a vote. Everybody get on record. We'll take what comes.
And the large bill, the reconciliation bill, at the moment stands at 3.5. It's not going to be voted on at 3.5. There's going to be some movement. It's not really the progressives' bill. It's Biden's bill. The progressives' bill was at $6 trillion, and they've come down to 3.5. Manchin is putting a lot of pressure on them to get lower than that, and they probably will go lower than that before the vote is taken.
You think that the progressives are holding out more because, or as long as they can, for one of two reasons? They're trying to get as much as they can get, or they're holding out because they put themselves in a box. That they have dug themselves into a hole.
I don't think the progressives are the variable to focus on here. I think it's Manchin and Sinema who are the variable to focus on. The progressives are basically backing Biden's goal of two bills. And they're not being particularly progressive about it. I mean, they're being fairly calm. They're just saying, we'll vote on both bills as long as we get both of them, but we won't vote on the one without the other. And that's Biden's point. It's Manchin and Sinema that are holding everything to ransom, not the progressives.
That's fine, but Charles Schumer has the ability to call for a vote. And if he only gets 48 votes, he only gets 48 votes. You have to become known for your losses. If your loss was made and you pulled out all the stops and you just didn't have the votes, then you can go back to the people next year and say, we need more blue senators.
You know,
So if they
Manchin
lose,
Manchin said something that you have to agree with. If the progressives want to get their bill through, they've got to elect more progressives.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it isn't the progressives. It's very convenient for him to focus on them as if they're the holdout. They're not. They're not the holdout. You know, there's a consensus in the Democratic Party about wanting two bills. And the only holdout is Manchin saying 3.5 is too much, which, by the way, is the wrong framing of the narrative. Biden made the right point, which is everything in the 3.5 trillion is paid for by the impact it has over its life. There is no spend. There's zero spend. And so the whole narrative has got shifted to somehow these progressives want to spend a lot of money. That's just not correct. It's not what's going on.
well, but that's not what Manchin's saying, though, is it? It seems to me that what Manchin is saying is that it's just plain too much money. If the case is it isn't a spend, then what is the logic of positioning it as it's too much money?
Well, he's saying a couple of things. One is he's saying it's too much money. The other thing he's saying that some of the social safety net is going to make people soft and dependent. So, you know, part of it is an ideological claim he's making.
Right, but the data actually doesn't show that that's true.
Oh, I know, and the data doesn't show that it's too much money either. It's over 10 years, and if you take it as a percentage of GDP, and you assume that the GDP is going to grow, it's about 1% of GDP, certainly much less than we spend on the military. So, you know, on either the philosophical grounds or the financial grounds, I think Manchin doesn't have a leg to stand on, but he is running in West Virginia.
Yeah.
Just to put a cap on that, it's 1%, a little bit more than 1% of the increase in GDP between now and 10 years from now. So that's a relatively tiny number.
Well, then why don't we double it?
Well, the point is not to start with the number. The point is to start with what you want to accomplish. You know.
Yep.
And the question is, what do you want to do for the country and for the people in the country and the economy of the country? And then add that up and see what it costs. It's not starting at the number. It's ending up with a number.
And
How about instead of doing it that way, how about they figure out what they can actually get and then propose it?
Well, I don't think they know what they can get yet. That's
Of course they do. There's a logjam in Congress. The Congress is split 50-50, which means that if they lose one of these two senators to the Republicans, then it's no longer a Democratic Senate,
yeah.
Senate, right. If they lose, which they are projected to, the House, then it's no longer a Democratic House. Right now, it's a 3-vote majority out of what, 287 required for Pelosi continuing to be Speaker.
But I think if the narrative becomes, you know, do you want roads, bridges, childcare for under school age children, blah, 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 and the Republicans and Manchin are standing in the way of that, which is, I think, the correct framing, then I'm not convinced that you lose any seats.
Yeah. You got to understand what's in the big bill is a reversal of an awful lot of Republican policies from the last 30 or 40 years.
Yeah, part of it is
but-
reversal, but part of it is also an extension. I mean, there's a lot of environmental stuff in the big bill that's not necessarily a reversal. It was never there. And we better get that done as quickly as possible because the clock is ticking on the environment.
But Steve is right. I mean, if Manchin has a number in his head, which let's say it's 2 billion, that he says yes to. So Steve is right that there is a number that gets passed as a first stage if everyone wants to make the compromise. And so then, you know, basically Manchin ends up playing the role of the president because his policy is the one that gets agreed because it's the lowest common denominator. And, you know, the Democrats have to either swallow humble pie and admit that they're going to do that, or pride gets in the way and they don't. I think that's kind of what.
But the Democrats are not in charge. The progressives are, and they're saying no.
I don't think they are. I think they're backing Biden's stance, which hasn't shifted.
No, that they use that language. It's a very they say the same thing no matter which progressive is talking, which is a clue as to talking points. Now, the talking point is that this is how Biden got elected, is basically what their pitch is with when in fact he got elected with a moderate, middle of the road strategy, which incorporates, the left turn in general of the population.
I disagree with that, Steve. Look at what he said in the campaign. Now, he has a moderate reputation, and he comes with a moderate face and a moderate history, but the actual proposals he campaigned on are the proposals that are in the bill. The progressives didn't make it up. Biden proposed it.
Biden became president because of the Jim Clyburn and the Black population that turned one state.
Yeah, that was the path to the nomination.
That's
yeah.
right. It was also the path.
The campaign continued.
Without that, Biden, he's
the reality
120
is
years old. And why was he elected? He was not elected because of you and I disagree about this. I don't think that the progressive stance is anything more than rhetoric to prop up the fact that they don't have, as Manchin points out, they don't have enough people in Congress.
Well, the reality is Biden became elected because of revulsion against Trump. That's the reality of why he became elected.
I totally agree.
But look at what he campaigned on. You ignore everything that he campaigned on to make up your own story about him.
He campaigned.
There was a complex set of maneuvers that had to take place. You didn't want a repeat of the division between the Bernie wing and the Clinton wing that happened to get Trump into power in the first place. You wanted to bring the whole party together. And that's a very complex business that involves bringing moderates and progressives and blacks and whites and Hispanics and offering something to all of them. So what Biden got elected on was very deft coalition building. Now you're asking him to jettison the coalition that he built, and that's not going to happen.
I'm not asking him to. I'm asking the progressives to back off, and they're not. So far, they're not doing it.
And he's not asking them to.
It's funny.
Biden, I think, is doing a good job of marshaling this. However, until the progressives back off, nothing is going to happen.
Right. You want to frame it in terms of the progressives backing off.
But why, Steve?
I want to frame it in terms of Manchin stepping up. It's going to involve a combination of the two.
They've been complaining that he didn't have a number. He released a letter, leaked a letter with a number from July.
Yeah.
There's been a number all along. Nobody's been willing to talk about it.
He can change his number.
All right, all right.
And he can change his number. So
The
Manchin.
process isn't, all
problem.
right, I'm not going to comment on the process as though it's over when we're in the middle of it. It's ridiculous to do that.
I'm not asking you to comment. I'm asking the progressives to comment.
I'm
I'm
sure
asking
I'm
them.
sure you have their number.
I have an example.
Increasingly, we have their number.
I have a parallel example. I've been working on a merger between two entities where there's 5 stakeholders for the last 9 months. And one of the entities is the owner of the startup that's being acquired, who plays the role here of the progressives. And he said no 4 times to a number from the other side. The number has tripled during that process. And he's now said yes. And I think it's a normal, it's not, and by the way, and I've kind of lost my nerve about 3 times, said to him, what are you thinking? Say yes. And he says, no, it's the wrong number. And now he's got his number. So I do think there is evidence in life for stubbornness resulting in good outcomes.
Yeah, don't disagree. It's a question of knowing. It's a question of knowing when you've gotten all you're going to get.
And then knowing when to stop.
Right, which means that you're not stubborn as a point of your existence. You're stubborn until you get your number, and the question then becomes: do you have a goal? Do the progressives have a goal? And we're just not hearing it.
I've started pondering. If you think of the United States, this is. I'm not going to veer us off here, Steve. But that probably means I am. But the operating system of the United States is fairly complex, right? All this stuff is part of it. Compare it, say, to China, where they say we're going to build a high-speed railroad, and then they do it. It's like we have an extremely complex operating system that you have to know how to operate in. And I think progressives are just probably doing what they should be doing for them, right?
So let me ask the question, and I may have missed this, but has Manchin said what he is willing to get rid of in the $3.5 billion bill in order to get it down to 2.1 or 2 billion? Has he gotten into the weeds with that? Do we know what that is?
There is a list in his memo of things he doesn't want to do. He really doesn't want, one of the things that he wants, that he's asking for, is means testing many of the safety net proposals, so that rather than delivering them broadly, you deliver them more narrowly. And that's something that people are going to be, I think, negotiating with him on. You know, there are different ways to adjust this. One has to do with the timing of when things take effect. One has to do with who benefits and how many people benefit and how broadly they benefit. You know, it's a very large and complex bill, and a lot of work is being done. You know, on the headline side, it just looks like I say no and you say no, and I say yes and you say yes. But there's a lot of horse trading going on that we're not.
But not on the progressive side.
Well, but the progressive were involved in the markup, weren't they?
I saw the press secretary.
I get it, Steve. You think the progressives are the villain. I'm not going to defend them anymore.
I didn't say they're the villain. I say
you do. You say
they're holding
a problem because
they're holding up a extremely thin margin of so-called Democratic support, and they're playing chicken with, you know, we haven't even talked about what the Republicans are going to come in with once this gets ironed out, which I don't think it will be. They're going to come in with, this resolution to avoid a default by the U.S. government, which would tend to make the numbers that are being talked about in this bill or bills irrelevant compared to the damage that's going to be caused by just the run up to December 18th, as the chairman of the Fed, ex-chairman of the Fed, says is what's going on. I mean, at some point, the progressives have to call it a day.
I don't think that
when they get what they want.
But you could also
Now, there's an important tell. There's an important tell that came out at lunchtime when Congresswoman Jay Paul was talking to the press, and she said, "We've made more progress in the last 45 minutes than we've made in weeks." That says to me that things had not been moving, regardless of what was reported in the press, and that they are now activated. Biden is going to a Democratic meeting this afternoon. Things are in motion in ways that they weren't even 24 hours ago. I'm sorry, did I interrupt you, Keith?
I
think the problem, Steve, is that you're taking the word "no" literally. It's not meant to be taken literally.
And I was also going to say that when you've got at least three players, let's say Manchin's one player, Biden's another player, and the progressives are another player, and they don't agree with each other, but they're talking. I don't know how useful it is to pick any one of the three and blame them or point to them having to make the compromise. You could do that with any of the three. Why pick the progressives as opposed to
because here's why I'm blaming them, because they blamed everybody else, and now everybody else has come in with a number and they haven't.
Wait a minute, this everybody else is two people.
Yeah, but they represent the current state of reality in this country, and they're very important people.
Why? Just
Your deadline is today, and my deadline is when it happens.
And I question it, Steve. I think the progressives already gave a number which was 6 trillion and conceded that they can't get it and have agreed to 3.5. So they have a number. It's 3.5.
Well,
not only that, but the Senate already voted on
6 billion. If you believe 6 trillion is a real number, which I don't.
But whatever, it's
none of this is real.
All of it's a matter of the whole process is going to be a compromise, right? Nobody is going to get exactly what they want. The progressives have to be there to put this pressure on, to stand up for things that people actually need, and how this country needs to be transformed. So if they don't do that job, who will?
Did you see there was an interesting article in it's a British publication, Guardian maybe, about the tech companies that are supporting or who are ostensibly supporting the principles of climate change, et cetera, but are actively trying to stop the 3.5 billion.
Yes, I've seen coverage on that. They are supporting the Business Roundtable, which is trying to stop it and trying to stop the tax increases. I mean, there's specific parts of the proposal that they're pushing against.
Right. This
not
is
under their own name, but under their lobbying name.
That's right. So this is what when we get through Manchin, then we've got Kirsten Sinema, who wants absolutely no additional taxes on corporations or rich people, according to what she has said once the elevator door closes. In other words, not publicly. So we don't know what she wants. There was a very strong effort a couple of days ago to sort of marginalize her, and Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC attacking her for being rude, essentially. These are all political tactics that are going to be resolved by one of these constituencies, as Dennis, I think, pointed out, getting the number that they're looking for.
You make a good point there about constituencies. That if the constituents have anything to say about it, then why why isn't Kristen Sinema voting in line with what her constituents may want? And that's why she is being, sounds like she's going to be censored by censured by the Democratic committee in her state for not doing what the constituents want and what the Democrats in that state want.
Good luck with
What are
that.
don't the people have anything to say?
2024 before she has to run.
Yeah,
So-
and I have
Yeah.
a bridge to sell you if you believe
Well,
that there's going to be a censure effort there.
there may be a censure effort, but it may not mean anything.
Even if there is a censure, she's just going to fall back on Edmund Burke and say that it's a representative democracy. People hired her to use her best judgment. That's what it is. You don't like my best judgment? Don't reelect me.
Marjorie Taylor Greene
What?
Yeah.
hired her for her best judgment. I'm sorry. It just struck me when he said that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got one vote for it's the progressives stupid. We've got a half a vote from Frank, who went like, maybe.
Yeah, I did. I went like
Yeah,
that.
okay. And then Brent, what do you think?
I think it all doesn't matter if they get something done. You know, it's all about the end result. What do they call it? The sausage making? I don't want to see the sausage. I don't want to hear about it. Just bring me something. If it doesn't work, then they're all going to have their heads roll. That's, you know, I can't get too invested in all that.
So what do you find interesting that's happened this week?
The Rams are 3-0. So I'm I don't know. You know what? I'm waiting. I'm seriously, I'm waiting for October 4th or 5th, because that better be the day that the announcement comes out from Apple saying that they are going to have a conference the following week where they finally announce the MacBook Pro with the M1X or MX1 or whatever you want to call it chip. I am so waiting to buy this thing. It's not even funny. So that's I'm all about trying to I bought a whole bunch of new stuff. I'm trying to do something that makes things look different, and I am all in on that. I haven't even had a chance to read any of your newsletters. I haven't even read the last posting of the Gillmor group on TechCrunch, although I know it's about 1,700 words, because I initially was going to read it all, and then I scrolled and I kept scrolling, and I'm scrolling right now, trying to get to the end of that thing. So yeah, I've been a little preoccupied. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Very, very succinctly. Less than 1,700 words, but nonetheless. So my question would be, I'll answer my question. I won't even ask the question. There's major movement in the live audio space because this guy, David Sachs, I think it was. Is that right? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Keith, yeah. Developed a program, basically the 78th clone of Clubhouse, which had as a feature the ability to record. In short order, that pushed Twitter to announce the record or replay feature in Twitter Spaces. And then yesterday, I think it was, Clubhouse announced that they will have within weeks that same functionality. You can see that there might be some sort of relationship between the strategy of people like us who are basically saying, how about the record thing so that we can basically merge the two streams of podcasting and streaming together into one thing so that people can actually go out there and become experts and actually make a living in this new media area. So I consider this to be enormously important. That's one thing. The other thing was a video that Matthew Panzarino, who's the editor of TechCrunch, put out about the new phone. And
with the cinematic mode thing.
yeah, but cinematic mode is kind of like the reconciliation bill. It's like everything, including the kitchen sink, that Apple has been working on, with all of these hardware additions in terms of like a map, a depth map, so that they can achieve what everybody thinks, or at least last week on the show, thought was going to push them over into getting the new phone. The reality is that this is a suite of services, hardware and software, that is fundamentally changing how citizens or non-professionals are going to be able to use their phones. And he has a video which he shot at
Disney World.
I think it was Disneyland.
Or Disneyland.
I'm not positive.
I'm not enough of a Disneyite to know that there's two things. I thought it was the same.
Yeah, well, but you know so much about everything else. Why are you not paying attention here?
Steve, there's a clue. Do I know anything about anything?
Well, that's your fallback, but yeah, you do. You know a lot about a lot of things.
So Steve, can we talk?
No, I was in the middle of what I was saying, which is that this video, which is available on TechCrunch, is extraordinary, because after you focus on cinema view and all of these pieces of the puzzle, you suddenly realize you're watching something which, I don't think Matthew is a filmmaker, but it looks like he's a filmmaker, because the software is now anticipating. His daughter comes into frame from off frame as they're walking down this Disneyland Boulevard, and she's in focus. So how do they do that? Well, what they have is this overscan technology, which they've used for image stabilization for a long time, which is basically they shoot the image that you're going to end up with as the final aspect ratio, and then they shoot an additional number of pixels around that, so that they can then compensate for changes in, for example, image stabilization by zooming in on that larger frame to create something that looks smooth. Not well said by me, but that's actually how it works. And this capability, if you're watching this video, all of a sudden you realize this thing feels like there was this thing called the Steadicam, which a guy named Garrett Brown invented about 20 years ago, right, Frank?
Yeah, it's like a combination of Steadicam and LiDAR, actually, which I think is what's fascinating about it. By the way, it's a way of capturing all of the light in front of the camera and allowing you to manipulate all of that light, which is one of the things that the new camera, I understand, can do, and that is to take an image and soft blur the background after you've already shot it, that sort of thing. That's what LiDAR does. It allows you to manipulate any portion of the frame, and that's how it determines what it should be focusing on. It can determine light valuation. It can determine color valuation. It can do a lot of things that even a regular professional video camera can't do. It's really, as I said in the last episode of the Gillmor Gang, it would be the main reason why I would want to buy one and why I'm so angry that I bought the 12 Pro when I did.
So what I realized in watching this video is that, yes, we can talk about how professionals can now do something that they could only do at 10 times the cost, blah, blah, blah. Or we can realize that everybody can now produce product which has this subtle, smooth feel, which is intelligent about where the eye is being directed. So essentially what it is the merging of a large population of video with the things that have been learned and experimented on, the sort of Eisenstein effect of film schools, and the idea of how you can intercut all these kinds of very subtle issues of filmmaking are now essentially available without people realizing it. That what they do realize is that it looks better. Oh, look at what she's doing. Look at what those people that are behind her. She turns her head and the focus pulls automatically.
Let's not forget, though, the editing process and the role that plays in coming up with what you end up with at the end is vastly important. But there are so many improvements in auto editing applications now, like things like Magisto, which will auto edit. You can take a minute-long clip, run it through Magisto, and it will determine whether something should be a wide shot or a tight shot or a medium shot based on the music track that you have picked to put against it. I mean, there's just so much out there now. Combine those two technologies, and yes, you come off like a professional. I will say that I've had this conversation with a couple of professional cameramen who love the equipment, love what it does, but will, of course, always default to, but you can never do what I can do. Not me, them. Which actually is an interesting thing, because if this technology, what we have right now, was in everyone's hands, would the impending IATSE strike mean anything? I just, I mean, there's so many.
I don't even know what IATSE is.
What the IATSE is? I know Yahtzee. I don't know what IATSE. What is it?
Okay, IATSE is the International Alliance of Theatrical and Stage Employee Television Technicians, basically. So they're the cameramen and they're the lighting directors, and it is a very important.
It's the backstage showbiz union.
Yes, it's 60,000 members strong, like the Directors Guild, which is.
Why do we care about this? I mean, you do.
Well, no,
why do we?
It just maybe I'm diving too deep into the weeds here, but if all of the cameramen and lighting directors and the people that make the imagery, and then the directors, for example, who will say if IATSE goes out, we will go out with them, and so will the other 6 or 7 important unions who create content either for the big screen or the small screen. My point is that this is a technology that could make the management folks say, well, we don't need them.
Okay, but how important is that versus, I mean, I'm not trivializing how it's important to people in the industry, but how important is that compared to the fact that probably 50% in the next year and a half of phone owners are going to have an improved product that is going to move into the so-called creator economy and become a source of education, political transformation, et cetera, et cetera. all
Well,
because
it is
because
important.
all because they focused on the outcome rather than how it's done.
Well, how it's done was the thing that informed the outcome, and how it's
Sure.
done. Yeah, so it is important. I'm not saying that's going to happen right away, but I'm saying that every time there is an improvement in the technology, it affects the entire industry. It may take a little while for it to affect the industry, but as you just said, everyone will be able to make a high quality piece of content that they can put out on the stream.
Whether they know it or not.
Yes.
Well,
That makes it
vacation. They go on vacation. They turn the camera on, and it feels like they have a steady cam and a focus puller,
Yeah.
and a internal editor, and all these things have become more and more accessible for that same what we called last time. How do you divide $800 by 52 weeks? That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So,
We
but
are
I
talking
think
about it. I would
Frank-
disagree that it's going to be a radical break. It's an incremental break. There's still going to be a huge divide between what professionals see and imagine and envision and achieve, and what duffers see, imagine, and achieve. Yes, all your amateur videos are going to look more professional, and they're going to be more in focus, and they're going to have all these new tricks,
substantially more
substantially. But it's
Michael, even a duffer can hit a hole in one. I mean,
the fact is that everywhere along the way, beginning with Polaroid cameras, even at the beginning with Eastman Kodak cameras, you push the button and we do the rest. We've seen step by step the ability to put into amateur hands things that only professionals could do, and it keeps escalating. But I think it's more of a continuum than a radical break.
I agree with that. I think you're exactly right. But the point is that over time, that the continuum will eventually become what will appear a radical break.
Sure. If you jump back 5 years and 10 years, you go, oh my God, look what we've done. But it is not something that's going to be noticeably different immediately, because people have rack focus in their iPhones.
But rack focusing is a trivialization of what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. You're saying that everything looks better.
So I'm saying that this video looks substantially better.
And I said the same thing.
That's been on the market.
When 480p went to 1080p, I said the same thing when it went to 4K, and I said the same thing. I said the same thing when the iPhone had 2 different lenses in it, and then when they had 3 different lenses in it. They're all advancements.
The thing is, though,
I said, "Oh my God, look how much better this is."
You put that piece of equipment in the hands of not a neophyte, but in the hands of somebody who is substantially more than a neophyte, but not quite a professional. And that there's a lot of them out there. And I think you'll start seeing better stuff. Look, I think in the end, those of us who spend a lot of time looking at TikTok or video on YouTube are going to notice that the stuff's starting to look better. And I think, I think that's an important incremental move.
And at every stage, it changes the calibration of budgets and crew sizes.
Yes.
And equipment that you have to schlep.
And there was a time, Michael.
It all goes on, but I don't know that it's suddenly going to turn night into day.
No, but I remember the time when every crew that went out on before ENG was a 4-man crew. So you had and then that 4-man crew became a 3-man crew, and then that 3-man crew became a 2-man crew, and then that 2-man crew became what is known today as a 1-man band, which is somebody who's going out writing, producing, editing, shooting, coming back, or writing, producing, and shooting, then coming back.
And that's everybody. And that's everybody.
And now that's
everybody has that in their pocket right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I understand your points, but I consider it to be trivial what the impact is on the professionals at this point. I think that this is about what's the impact on society and on how we spend our time and what we consider to be important. And I think this is
I actually I don't really care about society. I care about the professionals. So there you go.
No,
Okay, cool.
I remember
Oh, you must be a sociopath.
You think?
Back when I was
there's
at
a
Apple,
there's a broader narrative in what Frank's saying, which is all to do with, let's just call it the struggle between capital and labor in the context of innovation. And Frank's making the point that innovation, when done aggressively, successfully, and quickly, displaces jobs, as it should. And labor always, insofar as it can, organizes to prevent that from happening because they're fearful that there will not be any new jobs for them. And I think we can see in this iPhone innovation the future of humanless cameras. There will be no humans. I mean, especially when you have robots with either wheels or legs, and the direction can say zoom in, to such and such a face, which could be recognized by the camera because it knows who everyone is. All of that is already prefigured.
Well, look at what your portal does when you stand up and you move around. And
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not doing it with legs. That's doing it with software. And actually, Keith, I want to say that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, and now there is no sense, and I speak as a working class Brit whose mum was a union organizer. The class struggle will never be won by slowing down progress and innovation in technology, ever. It basically makes labor the equivalent of losing companies who try to slow down their rivals, like, say, the telephone companies did with the internet. And so I think it's pretty hard to empathize with labor when the goal is to... It's the same when labor is against immigration because it fears lower wages. No, immigration's good for all of us. So I think that the re-education of labor in embracing innovation is extremely hard because of insecurities that it gives rise to, but it has to be figured out because otherwise
I think you're right about that. I think it applies to everything from coal mining to making steel to building cars. It all applies. And what will electric cars do to a huge section of the labor community that drills for oil, for example?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I agree with you. I think what you've just described is a special case. It's the special case of continuing development of an existing paradigm, and that's all well and good. But when industry and innovation does its job right, it's not typically making. It's not always improving the paradigm. It's often inventing new paradigms. And the answer to some of the questions is that labor transitions from the old paradigms to the new paradigms. When I wrote my book on sustainability, it was very interesting to me that already, this was several years ago, already there were more people working in installing and maintaining windmills and solar panels than there were people working in coal mining. Those numbers have been dropping for a long time. That paradigm is leaving, but what's interesting is that the new paradigm that is spinning up is happy to accept the same laborers, people without college educations. So the general case is innovation that creates new paradigms, not innovation that simply extends an old one.
But what about those people? I'm not taking a contrary point here. I'm just asking, what about those people who don't want to make that switch. Those people who are the coal miners that don't want to become someone that is involved in a newer type of industry. Is it that eventually they will just go away?
They'll become Trump supporters because no, they will, because people because they're not offered an alternative.
Well, no, wait a minute, Keith. That's their politics. That's not how they make a living.
No, how they make a living is they end up, my grandfather was a coal miner and my father was too. They both had different paths. My father retrained during the Second World War and became a cryptographer. My grandfather stopped working and became poor, and scraped through on social welfare.
I would say there's a third alternative. The third alternative is to remember that we still make steel in this country, even 100 years after steel's heyday. There's some things that become embedded in the economy that don't go away. They may right size. So, for example, we still have radio. Radio used to be the entertainment technology. It's gone away. It employs far fewer people, but we still have it. We still have steel making, as I say. And I think if you look deep into coal mining, you'll understand that right now we make about 500 pharmaceuticals out of coal, and coal is a starting material for a whole lot of organic feedstocks, including butadiene, which is used to make automobile tires.
But go behind that. What are you saying about coal?
I'm saying coal ain't going away. I'm saying there. Last time I looked, there were 1,200 coal-fired power projects either under construction or on the drawing board globally.
No, that's right. If there was self-driving cameras, which I think will happen a lot faster than self-driving cars, but if there were self-driving cameras, would human camera work go away? No, because the artisan usually survives because of skill and quality, but it becomes the minority.
I'll tell you something. That's an interesting.
Hello. Cole isn't going away, but Brent is in just a minute or two. I don't make the same mistake of not being able to say goodbye to Brent this week. So Brent, thank you very much for being here today on the Gillmor Gang. Leave when you have to. But I just wanted to get that in. Thank you, man.
Oh,
Ciao, Brent.
Thanks. Yeah, and one I'll leave you with two things. TikTok had their very first big online virtual event, TikTok World. It was eye-opening. I'll drop the link to the replay. There are some engagement stats that are going to make all this stuff that you're, particularly with the phone, the camera, video phone, really start to hit home, because I think I was talking to recently on the Serum Place, we had Jonathan Becker on with us, who's the president of the San Jose Sharks. And he said something that really was interesting about currently the consumer to creator ratio is, still skewed in the favor of consumers, more consumers than creators. But eventually we're getting closer and closer to where it's actually going to be on par. Because I think what you talked about with the phone and the video and not only making it easier to make this stuff, but to make it look like it's professional, that plays a role in this. And then check out that TikTok, because combine those two things, because now, TikTok, they announced commerce and advertising and community, and so they're incentivizing creators, and then you get these technologies that make these make it easier to create compelling content. You combine those two things and you got a pretty interesting story. So and the last thing is PBS is on a roll. Not only did they have the Muhammad Ali, Ken Burns documentary, but the following week they had this really good two-parter on William Randolph Hearst. Good stuff.
It's interesting that you talk about PBS. I have a friend of mine who is an executive that has told me that they have a number of new types of programs in the works. So I think I don't want to talk about them because he didn't tell me I could, but I'm just saying there's a lot going on in PBS. I think what you were just saying is very interesting about TikTok. TikTok has made a lot of moves, but I was going to say that I'm on a forum. A PR forum called PR Czars, which is very interesting. And someone was asking to find a crew to shoot video for them at a specific location, at a specific event for a certain amount of money, the amount of which I know absolutely not a single professional would ever accept. And the number of people who came back in the conversation and said, put an iPhone on a selfie stick with a good microphone and shoot it at 4K, and you're gonna be able to do something that will serve your purposes. What I'm saying about that is that more and more that is happening. Yes, incrementally, but more and more that is happening. People are doing that. And the more people do that, and the more people in these professional forums that encourage that to happen, is I think is what will push this whole thing in another direction.
And that is a new paradigm.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. See you, Brent.
Have a nice week. Good week.
Well, I wish Brent was here. Steve brought the first topic that Steve brought up was Clubhouse basically caving, I'd say, to recording. It was kind of part of their mission that you could not record, and with David Sachs, I think it's what is it?
Call-in,
right? The Call-in app has really pushed this issue and pushed them. They seem to be responding, and by they I mean Clubhouse and Twitter responding kind of quickly to it. And this, we see this in technology all the time, right? It's the users who start to decide how a technology is going to get used. It gets used in a different way than people intended. And I think from the very beginning, it certainly was my issue with Clubhouse, is that you not only couldn't you record on the app, but you weren't allowed to. And then there was a softening of the not being allowed to. People, they said, well, you could if you got permission, or if everybody knew that you were recording and everyone agreed to it. And then people started putting little red dots in their rooms. And so somehow recording started. So now we have a bit of a shift because people really want recordings. And I think my question here is this now the podcasting platform really? Is that what it is? Is that what it's going to turn into? Or is podcasting turning into this, where it's a more interactive sort of platform?
well, in a way, Steve hinted at it, but the Gillmor gang, forever, I mean, more than a decade, has done what is called live recording. Basically, this show that you are watching now, if you're watching it on Friday, October the 1st at 11:48 Pacific time, is live, but it's a live recording, and it's going to be stored and then published in a slightly modified form with lower thirds and stuff later on TechCrunch and other places. And so we've always had this, real time, but recorded for post-production kind of approach. And we're video, by the way. We're way beyond Clubhouse, and we've been doing it for a long, long time with video. So the idea that
By the
Clubhouse
way, other podcasts are doing something similar, where they will broadcast with video their recording sessions.
yeah.
I think Gillmor Gang is probably early at it, but you're seeing a lot of it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So
I don't think it's one thing turning into the other. I think it's more of a mishmash.
Yeah.
Because there's a range of podcasts, from scripted podcasts to conversational podcasts to documentary podcasts, and this live audio social media is a way of creating one form of podcasts, not all of them.
Now,
I think
now wait, just before you speak, Frank, let me just add this. We are also doing something else. We have a live content stream that is 24/7 at t.me/Gillmor Gang. And all of us are posting stories that we think are interesting. During this show, I posted all the links to the Matt Panzarino things that Steve mentioned, for example. And so we're even taking it one step further. We have live video recorded with live content streams before, during, and after. This is the beginning of what things are turning into. And I think Clubhouse, from that point of view, is relatively primitive. But what Clubhouse did that no one else had done is create this live telephone conference call kind of concept with a host and an audience. We don't have the audience. That's their innovation. Their innovation is the audience can join the show if you let them.
With the ability of the host and the panel to promote people from the audience to the stage spontaneously.
Yeah,
that's the innovation.
I am, and add to that the entire thing that we're talking about right now, the ability to transcribe, which is another very interesting and important part of that. I wanted to ask Michael if as Michael had sent me offline a notification that my explanation of LiDAR was a little off. If you would post that, that would really be great, Michael, because it's very technical and it's a lot more complicated than I explained it. I think it's probably worth mentioning. But that's it. I got nothing else.
Okay.
What happened to Steve? Did he just disappear, or did he get tired of this conversation?
No, he's right here. He's been here all along.
Can you turn your
Okay.
video back on?
No, I can't right now.
No.
I think it's a protest against something we said, but I don't know what.
No,
It's not a protest.
Against me.
No,
I think
I
it's got something to do with the progressives and Manchin, but
No,
No, I've had more than an opportunity to express myself on this show, and I decided that let's let the civilians talk.
And you did the Vulcan cloak.
yeah. I wanted to ask, one of the things about the new phone that I've been reading, and it seems to me that anytime a new piece of gear comes out, somebody will find the problems with it. And the one problem that struck me about the new phone, it's certainly not a reason not to buy it, is the sort of the aftermarket repair situation with the phone that kind of said to me, if you break the glass on the front of the phone, you have to replace the entire. Oh, come on, really? You've already got it? Is that it?
And I'm doing cinematic mode on your face. I'm focused on you right now. Keep talking.
You know what? I just would like to see that. So when you're finished with it, send it to me. I'm interested in knowing, what you think, since you have it, about that, Keith. Does that bother you? Do you care about that? Probably not, right?
No.
I mean, if you spend the money for the Apple Care, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I spent the money for the Apple Care 5 days after buying the phone. I said no in the store.
Yeah.
And then they are really good at prompting you on the phone that you realize you're not covered for theft or damage. And eventually I caved and bought 3 years worth of Apple Care, or 2 years, whatever it is.
And I actually caved and bought it as soon as I bought the 12 Pro, which I had not done before. I'd always done what you did, and I waited a while and went, oh, gee, I really think I ought to do that. It's a really good thing.
Frank, the new phones always come out at this time of year. You should have held off.
Thank you.
I think I even sent you a message to that effect at the time.
Yeah. But I gotta buy it. I have to have it. I was in America. the price difference was so
Oh.
great
Well,
compared to buying a phone in the UK. Buying a phone in the UK, it looks like when you if you're an American and you look at it, you go, oh, 1,000. That's not so bad. It's not 1,000. It's 1,000 pounds, and that's way different.
But
Yeah.
doesn't that have to do, doesn't a lot of that have to do with the tax, with the VAT?
VAT. Well, yes.
Because we quote, in America, we quote a list price without a sales tax.
Yeah, and all of a
And
sudden
in
you
Europe,
add
you quote a list
8.5%.
price that includes a sales tax.
So you add the 8% to it, and or 8.25% or whatever it is in New York. It really was a matter of, God, I just got to have it. Now I've just got to have the new one.
Well, there's a market for your very good condition old phone.
Steve makes a good point, though. It's like what, $80 a month, $50 a month? What is that? That's cat food.
Frank, do you just need an extra camera and just
Yeah.
repurpose the phone as a camera? Maybe you can do that.
Yeah.
You got a wife. Does she have the 12?
She will, I guess, because right now she's got the 8.
Oh,
The 8 that
she would love a 12.
Yes, I'm sure she would. And then now all of a sudden she'll go out and become a better cameraman than me.
Okay.
12 now.
Any thing that we've forgotten, starting with Dennis?
Oh, I don't know. I think we've exercised the news pretty well. I got nothing.
Okay. Next.
I
Well,
did
pick
just
somebody.
post my cinematic mode video into the t.me/Gillmor gang for those who are interested.
I got to go look at it.
It's on its way now.
You got the lower thirds coming in.
It's 7 megabits for about like 30 seconds.
So there is a story that worth at least mentioning, and that is that Scarlett Johansson reached an agreement with in her lawsuit. So we don't know how much money she got, but there you go. I got your video. We don't know how much money she got, but it was apparently a whole lot, and that will affect contracts going forward for people who are making films that are also either going to be released first on the stream or secondarily on the stream. But in any case, I think all films are going to end up on the stream anyway at some point.
And she's the Kristen Cinema of Hollywood.
Okay.
No, not at all. She made it very clear what she wanted. Kristen Cinema is being a little curious and odd.
And she was right.
She is not.
She was right. Disney didn't settle because she wasn't right.
Here,
We have a
hang on a second.
We have a debate.
Hang on a second.
What?
Do I sound more authoritative now without the picture?
No.
Always.
Yeah, voice of God.
Yeah, you're the voiceover guy now.
Well,
Okay.
I'll leave you with the last thought. We have a difference of opinion about the new James Bond film. So it's going into theaters. It won't hit the stream probably for a while. We haven't been to a theater in a year and a half. Can you put your video back on, please?
Well, we'll see what you say.
So I say, well, this might be the time where we finally journey back into the theater, because I can't see a new James Bond film on my screen, although it's a decent sized screen. It's not a theater screen. So there we stand. Steve and I are.
Yeah, I'd rather get a
He'd rather
4K.
wait.
I'd rather get a 4K TV and wait 2 months. Yes.
I'd rather see it in IMAX.
Tina, you
Not
just.
only does he want to wait, but then it has to be a new TV too.
I foresee a new app, Tina. It's called Movie With Me, and it's like Tinder without the sex. And you just got to find someone else to take you to the movies.
A movie pal.
That's a good idea.
There you go. You heard it here first on the Gillmor.
Movie With Me.
Hey, movie with me. Movie with me? Oh, I think there's a lot of fun names we could come up with.
You could add it. Movie with me would be Meow.
Okay, so Michael Markman, any further thoughts?
Yeah, there are a couple of interesting further thoughts. don't forget when you upgrade your screen, you want to get a good sound system.
Yeah.
A large part of the theater experience has to do with the gazillion speakers that are surrounding you, as well as the brightness and size of the screen.
I would like
Haptics. And then now there's haptics.
So Michael, I've got an 11.2 in my living room. I've got 11.2 Dolby Atmos.
Of course you do.
In the bedroom, I bought one of those front-facing Dolby Atmos things that it's all in one, and it's like $500. It's almost as good.
Really?
So I have a really great sound system on my 4K TV in the living room, which I can't use because the neighbors upstairs complain about it.
That's London for you. There's always neighbors upstairs, downstairs,
But
left and right.
they come down and go, excuse me, but don't you know that's where the fireplace used to be?
Well, I use my speaker system is the iPhone, and I've seen a couple of really good things on that. The Rolling Stones performed in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And the first couple of days there were only fragments, and then finally a version of Sympathy for the Devil came out, and it was really good. And the reason I mention this is because Jean-Luc Godard famously brought a camera crew with a track for dollying around the studio into the original session for that song. And, it was like watching paint dry, but, what was going on there was them discovering this song. And then we fast forward to today, and the new drummer who's replaced Charlie Watts, Steve Jordan. The question is, does he gel? Does the band actually continue to exist, or is it now a cover band of the Rolling Stones? and on this particular track, I mean, some of the other things on the first day of filming, I don't know, but Sympathy for the Devil, I think I put it in the t.me/Gillmor Gang Telegram feed, but if I haven't, I will.
Yeah, please do.
And you can just see the group come together.
It's just my favorite Rolling Stones song. By the way, Dennis, watch the Squid Game on Netflix. Check it out.
Okay.
And it's, as long as we're doing Netflix recommendations, Money Heist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but too much, too long.
It goes on forever. But I will say this: you can stop after the first two series because it has an ending. But it was so good that they decided they should do some more.
Guys, I've got to go.
See you, Keith.
Have a good week.
Good week.
Bye.
Frank, we just started watching the new season of Sex Education.
I have not watched that, but has anybody seen the Vigil? There's a show called Vigil, which is a murder mystery on a submarine in the UK, in Scotland, and it's on a nuclear sub. It's really good. I'm not sure where you would watch it other than on the BBC iPlayer, but there must be some other places to see it. It's very good. I spend so much of my time consuming content. It's ridiculous. I don't sleep.
Okay, Dennis, last thoughts.
I'm hopeful and optimistic that a week from today we'll be looking back on the infrastructure deal.
Okay,
Your mouth to God's ear.
Raise your hand if you agree with him.
You didn't raise yours.
No, he didn't.
Now, I'm hoping that you're all right and I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
all right.
Thanks to Brent Leary for his unique participation. He's all over the place on the network these days. CRM Players is mushrooming into this galactic conspiracy to widen what CRM means. And I'm all for it. I think we are very lucky to have him for as long as we have him. I want to thank, thank you, Keith Tier for his comprehensive knowledge of what it takes to be able to upgrade to the latest of everything as quickly as possible. And I want to thank our producer and director, Tina Chase Gillmor.
Thank you. Good show. Nice show. Thanks for letting me participate.
Oh, that's what you're saying now.
Ah.
Earlier, I'm congratulating myself for my brilliant analysis that led to this incredible last 20 minutes or so where you guys actually said some stuff that I found interesting. Who just left? Oh, is that NFT?
Dennis.
Okay.
NFT. Bye-bye, NFT.
I'm just making my comment on self-congratulation.
Oh, excellent.
The same way Steve did.
Oh, that's what he's, people are pushing back left and right.
What are you going to do?
Thanks to everybody who showed up and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again, or some of us will see you again next time. Bye-bye.
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 Sayonara.